version of Islam. We've been seeking, our Reform congregation, I've been seeking, and my peers have been seeking, those of us that are like-minded and like-hearted, not all of my peers. I'm sure you have different perspectives of priorities in your community, as we do in the Reformed Jewish community. Mosque communities that would be in an evolving state of looking at their traditions, looking at their history, digging deeper, as Jews tend to have. Those of us that are historically oriented, we're extremely historically oriented. We've had a discussion with your Imam about that. And we're looking for like-minded and like-hearted communities of religion that want to commit to social justice. The Reform movement of Judaism, as I had mentioned last time, started in Germany quite a bit after the Protestant changed quite a bit. And it was in the Enlightenment. And those folks, when they came to America, brought with that tradition where the Reform movement has dug into their 3,000 or 4,000 year history, depending on how you want to earmark the beginning of Judaism. You can do it either at King David or you can go back to Abraham. The assumption was 1,000 years difference between the two. We're not sure historically, but that's sort of the common attribution. And Jews have been throughout, as I had mentioned last time, Israel's struggle, trying to sort out their role in the societies and life of the people they were part of. So we're no different of that tradition in America. We're part of the largest Jewish community. Actually, I think Israel may have topped this population. Israel may be slightly more Jews for the first time in their history and our history than in America.
Wow.
Okay, I believe that's accurate. It could be several 100,000 to 500,000 people. But regardless, we're the second, like the second city, even though we're the third or fourth city now in population. And so being very active in inter-religious work since a youth, being involved with the Southwest Interfaith team, which my congregationalists have had various experiences. One is sitting on the board, David Rader, with me. We have attempted to have dialogue with several Muslim communities, and we have, but it hasn't been the same kind of experience as we have experienced with your community to date, and we want to build and develop that. Directness and honesty. Our experience is a small congregation in the south suburbs. We are heavily linked to many interreligious groups like the Parliament of World Religions, which I tended to, and apparently Imam Wallace's father was involved in, the South Suburban Ministerial Association, and we look at common ground to do social service and social justice work as it arises. Social justice work when there's discrimination or prejudice, that we need a rapid response to tell the haters immediately, don't operate in this community. We have a lot of allies. That's one thing that's very important to the Reform movement. Keeping up with legislation and the confusion in Washington that will affect all of us through Religious Action Center of the Reform movement and these institutions. So in our conversation, I would love to see you participate as one part of your community development, and also for us to be good friends of what, if anything, we have as resources to help you build and rebuild in the way that you choose to. I mean, I see our role as a resource. I see our role as like-minded and like-hearted in becoming more effective and more whole as communities. So my brief remarks are, this occasion and this agenda that Zamir Hassan has brought to us in consultation is exactly the kind of human collaboration that makes a difference. Instead of, making pronouncements and grand promises, let's work together. And I'm hoping by the end of this day we have a working plan for our next efforts. Zamir's going to bring some unique projects, which I think is a good way to build the relationship and do some healing of the world. We call it in Hebrew tikkun olam, repairing the world. But beyond that, we need to say, where can we support you? Where can we be a resource? And when can we work shoulder to shoulder? And this day, to me, is to get to the nitty-gritty of defining that. So when we walk out here, we have committed, each congregation. And by the way, even though there's only 3 Jewish congregations in the south suburbs, there's several in northwest Indiana, there's many throughout Chicagoland, there's approximately 300,000 Jews in the city. I would say it's probably close to 200,000 are in the Reform movement. The other 100,000 are what we would call more traditional Orthodox or conservative, and a couple smaller ones, but we won't get into all of that at this point. I don't think it's all that important. So, and we're heavily linked with the rest of those progressive Jews in the region, and heavily linked with progressive Jews on both coasts and in between. And since Mosque Cares is a national organization, religious organization, I'm looking to plant seeds here and then share it with your co-religionists and our co-religionists. I already am in discussion with people in Washington about what they may bring as a resource. I'm hoping you'll do the same in your resources, and I'm sure we're going to have to be good. And the last thing, under the environment we're living in now, we're going to have to be very good allies, and we're going to have to be able to be very quick in our response, because that's the only way to show that kind of ideology and that kind of exclusion and etc. We're just going to have to be present. We cannot be passive. So there's more on our agenda than any of us will have time or energy for. So I'm hoping by the end of the day we'll sort out some priorities in very short order begin. And I thank you for hosting us, and I think we're going to build communities together that we need to, and hopefully we'll do it well enough that others will join this beginning interreligious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Essentially what Brian said, my translation is, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. You're on the menu. Right? So we are going to get on the table together. Thank you very much. So the next speaker lost her voice.